Hey, what's up, team? It's Sherman here from Geek Psychology. Today's video is on the type 1 from the Enneagram and kind of how I'm trying to imagine it as a role-play game town or city. So I'm gonna kind of break down my ideas that I was thinking about, and if you have more information about it, if you have expert advice from yourself being a 1, that would be nice. I'd like to hear. So the way I'm seeing the Enneagram is to have all of the options available on one world, and you kind of go quest in other areas every once in a while. You bounce around, but naturally you go back to your hometown when there's a problem. And that hometown is your type 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. So this is going to be kind of a look at that in kind of a RPG skewed aspect, I guess. So I'm imagining the type 1s as this big, massive utopian society. It's just white, beautiful, it's completely clean. You know, you could eat off the floors. There's nothing dirty about it on the outside. It's very rigid, very controlled, kind of stoic in that sense. Everybody's trying to push for being perfect. And they don't only push themselves, they push other people to match that perfection within this society. This is not necessarily 100% the type 1. Okay, there are some aspects that are going to be skewed because it's kind of fun. It's an RPG metaphor, right? So they have this outer kind of perfectionist, rigid style. I have a notebook that I actually want to reference here. It's pretty cool. This is just where I write all my notes. So very high integrity, principled, purposeful, self-controlled, conscientious, realistic, reasonable, responsible, clean. And everybody in this society is going on with their lives, but their kind of goal is to battle corruption. They want to cleanse the corruption in the world and within their own city, town walls, or whatever it is. And in order to do that, they need to focus on being correct, being perfect in that sense, and living up to these high standards that their society holds for everybody there. And they also want the other people in the other towns, the other cities, to live up to those same standards. But, part of them realizes that it's just not going to happen. And so they are the ones that have to make that perfect. And within that, there's this feeling of anger. And it's anger at the world for not being perfect and not living up to those standards that they want to. And the problem is, though, anger means that they are not a perfect society. They're judgmental if they're angry. And if they're judgmental, then they're not perfect. And if they're not perfect, then that makes them angry again. So this is where this whole vicious cycle of anger keeps coming back. And in order to maintain their ideals and their identity as this perfect utopian society, they add on more control and restrictions to try to just squash that anger that's uprising. And because they force all that anger down within this society that I'm imagining, there's the Undercity. And in the Undercity is where everything is just kind of let loose. This is where all the like sex and debauchery and kind of kinkiness and stuff comes out. Because if you're focused so much on being perfect and being righteous and living the correct way, then you're repressing all of this other stuff, right, from the other side of that spectrum. And doing that means that it's going to have to show up somewhere. And in this envisioning, it's showing up in that Undercity, in the bowels of this utopian society. And this is where people are kind of free to let loose. This is where it's actually accepted to do, which is kind of true for in the bedroom, right? And also there's, I guess type 1s often have like intestinal and bowel issues as well, because that's where they just suppress all the rage and they're anal. Yeah. What else? Let's see. So one way that this society greets each other, it's kind of their custom, is to meet and express how the other person could be a little bit better. And I don't necessarily want this to sound like a bad asshole-ish kind of style, because I think there's that idea of trying to get people to live up to the perfection, to meet these high standards. And so in this envisioning, when they meet each other, they give that kind of small advice on how the other person can be a little bit better today. And that's just how that goes. When there are problems, type 1s naturally get a little sarcastic and overly critical, hypercritical about other people, and they kind of let that anger out just a little bit. Like imagine it being in a container, right? And you just kind of lift the lid, some of the hot steam gets out, and then you put the lid back on so it doesn't explode, doesn't burst. And this is definitely how the type 1s deal with that anger a lot of times, and kind of passive aggressiveness within that. I'm imagining that your quest within this world that I'm trying to imagine here, to create, my forehead's shiny, is your quest is to be the one who transforms the society, transforms the culture. And how you would do that as a type 1 within yourself, imagining you're the type 1 and there's this part of you that's rising up as the one who's going to change the society. That would be taking the culture through serenity and just kind of accepting that the world is perfect as it is in its own way. You don't need to craft everything exactly, because that kind of imperfection is also a form of perfection. And also not repressing the anger so much and just kind of letting it come out a little bit, being okay with the fact that you are angry and people get angry, and that's fine. It doesn't make you a flawed person, doesn't make you a bad person. It's just what happens. And so your quest is to kind of find that path, that way of influence to help that kingdom transform itself into what it could be at a higher level. And it can still be this utopian society, that's fine, but it also has to kind of let some of those rules kind of slack a little bit, I think. in order to let the creativity and passion come out more. Because if you're just focused on repressing anger, then you can't actually let all that creativity and good stuff out either. I'm also imagining this, the politics of the whole kingdom there is actually kind of a judge at the top. The one that's the high judge that's kind of looking down over everybody and actually making sure that everything is running perfectly and smoothly as it should be. And that's just kind of the accepted way within that kingdom. I think I've touched on everything I wanted to right there. If you have any questions, comments, please let me know. I'm really interested in hearing your opinion about this, and I'm going to try to go through the other types along the wheel. It's a lot of work, a lot of thought that has to go into it, but it's fun. I enjoy doing it. And if you got any other ideas for it too, please let me know. So thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned for the next video. Hopefully it'll be on the type 2 next week. If not, it'll get out there sometime when I get the time and energy and mental stamina to do it. All right, thank you very much for watching. Good luck, have fun, and peace.